Ready to dive in. This time, we're tackling Cuba's economic journey since '59. Buckle up, because it's been a real roller coaster. We're talking prosperity, hardship, the whole shebang. And get this, our sources bring three different angles to the table. First up, we're dissecting Cuba's economic system and internal policies. Did they help or hinder? Then, it's on to the big one. The U.S. embargo, how much did that impact things? And finally, we're zooming out to the global picture, sugar markets, natural disasters, those curveballs you just can't predict. Ready to go deep? Let's jump right into the thick of it. Our first stop, Cuba's economic engine room. One of the big questions we're tackling is whether their centralized state-planned system, the one they embraced after the revolution, actually backfired and hurt the economy. You may be wondering, hold on, what does a centralized economy even look like in real life? What is this? The government's calling the shots, setting production targets, controlling prices. The goal, more equality. Sounds good, right? But here's the catch. Our sources argue that in Cuba, it also brought along a mountain of inefficiency.
Exactly. Centralization often goes hand in hand with, well, bureaucracy. And we've all been stuck in those crazy long lines, right? Too much bureaucracy can really gum up the whole works. This source argues that this lack of efficiency really threw a wrench in innovation and productivity, especially in agriculture and industry. The backbone of any economy.
It's like trying to win a race with your shoelaces tied together. Good intentions only get you so far when you're weighed down. And for Cuba, they couldn't keep up with the global economy, which, let's be honest, waits for no one.
And here's where it gets really fascinating. In the early years after the revolution, Cuba did see some positive changes, particularly in healthcare and education. But then things took a turn.
Like what goes up must come down.
Exactly. And part of that downturn, Cuba's reliance on the Soviet Union. That's a whole other layer of the story.
Yeah.
It's like you think you've built this solid foundation, right? But then you realize it's not so stable after all.
And that's exactly what happened to Cuba.
Exactly. For a while there, things seemed pretty good, especially with the Soviet Union, providing subsidies, kind of like a helping hand. But when the Soviet Union crumbled in '91, Cuba was left high and dry.
Talk about a blow.
Oh, it was a huge blow. The island was plunged into this, well, they called it the special period, a severe economic crisis.
It's hard to imagine the impact of something like that.
It was rough. Food shortages, fuel, even basic necessities became hard to come by. It really showed how fragile their system was.
Right, all those eggs in one basket. Speaking of which, what about the U.S. embargo? In place since 1960. Restrictions on trade, travel the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, that's been a major sticking point globally, too. Added more fuel to the fire, so to speak. U.S.-Cuban relations were already pretty strained.
Right, a whole other story for another time, maybe.
It's a tangled web, that's for sure.
But back to the embargo. How much of an impact did it actually have? Our sources say it really choked Cuba's access to international markets. No trade partners, no investors, like being locked out of the game.
Absolutely. And don't forget the impact on essential goods, medicine, technology, even the raw materials they needed for basic industries. Imagine needing something desperately, but you can't get it. Like hitting a brick wall every time you turn around. It's frustrating, and it definitely stalled their progress.
It's got to be demoralizing. So internally, Cuba's dealing with the fallout from the Soviet collapse. And externally, they're facing pressure from the embargo. Talk about a tough spot.
And on top of all that, they had to contend with something else. The global economy, it's unpredictable, constantly changing.
Like trying to surf on a tsunami. You got it. We're talking about forces beyond anyone's control, starting with Cuba's reliance on sugar. For decades, that was their bread and butter.
Sugar was king, no doubt. But as the global market shifted, it left Cuba vulnerable. Kind of like putting all your eggs in one basket and then bam, the basket falls.
And everyone knows what happens to those eggs.
Exactly. The 20th and 21st centuries brought a surge in sugar production from other countries, more competition, prices dropping basic supply and demand. But for Cuba, it was a harsh wake-up call.
And as if that wasn't enough, there's another wild card, Mother Nature. Hurricanes, you name it. Cuba's faced some brutal natural disasters.
Devastating, really. Take Hurricane Irma in 2017. Billions in damage. Imagine that crops wiped out, flooding, tourism industry, which had become vital for them, totally on its knees.
It makes you realize how vulnerable island nations are, especially with climate change, throwing more curveballs their way. So we've got this perfect storm brewing. You've got internal policies, external pressures, global forces, all slamming into Cuba.
It all adds up, doesn't it? Cuba's story shows just how important it is to be adaptable, to diversify. You need that economic resilience, whether it's internal challenges or those external shocks. Multiple forces at work, always. Understand how they interact, and you got a better shot at navigating the global economy. And that's relevant for everyone, not just Cuba.
It's like they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But it definitely helps to learn from others' experiences, right? Well, we've gone deep on Cuba's economic roller coaster, the ups, the downs, and everything in between. Hopefully this gives you a new perspective on the complexities of, well, just how interconnected our world really is. Keep those questions coming, keep exploring, and we'll catch you in the next deep dive.